All right, this is Algebra lesson 9.4. Completing the square. Here's the deal. All right, so let me explain to you. I'm going to show you what to do here, okay? I'm going to show you the gist. Let me get an example here. Here's the example. X squared minus 6x plus 12 equals 19. Here we go. So here's the deal. Okay, here's the deal. I'm actually going to give you a simpler one than this. Okay, we're going to do one that looks like this. X squared plus 4x plus actually, I will go to this one. Okay. X squared minus 6x plus 12 equals 19. Let me show you what we're going to do. Okay. Line down the equal sign. First of all, do you see that this is, what would you normally do here? What do we normally want this to look like? X alone. Right, that's true, x alone, but a quadratic, it needs to equal 0, right? So you might want to go minus 19, you know, and then you would go, okay, x squared minus 6x minus 7 equals minus 7 equals 0. And then what could I do here? What do I do here? Factor it how? 1 and 7. I'm confused. What are we doing? Tell me exactly what to do. How do I factor this? What do I do? Find the factors of 7. So that would be this. Factors of 7 are 1 and 7, right? Okay, that's fine. And then you have to go, okay, well then what multiplies, so it's x and x, what multiplies to a negative 7 and adds to negative 6? Negative 7 plus 1. Agreed? You agree with that? Okay. And that would mean that x would equal, what would x equal then? 7 or negative 1. I would put them in different order, but you know what I'm saying? We would know how, you know how to do this. I'm going to show you another way of doing this. And while this may seem too long to you, it won't be when you get problems that you can't do it like this. When you get a problem that isn't this simple, just watch. Let me show you what to do. I'm going to show you this exact same problem. X squared minus 6x plus 12 equals 19. Watch how I'm going to solve this. This is very important that you understand the process. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. And that leaves me with x squared minus 6x equals 7. Yes? Watch what I'm going to do. Okay? What you want to do is you want to what's called complete the square. Do you remember when do you remember how well, I'll just show you the process. All you're going to do is you're going to take half of this, okay? Take half of that, all right? And you're going to put that over 1/2 of 4, right? So half of 4, right? Oh, you're going to take half of this. What is half of that? 3, right? Does that make sense? So it's half of that is 3. And so you're going to go 3, half of whatever b is, and you're going to square it. What is 3 squared? Okay, does that make sense? Now here's the, oh, sorry. That's not true. I got to back up. That's not true. So I'm going to add 9 to both sides, plus 9 here, and I'm going to add 9 here. Do you see? All I did was I added 9 to both sides. Am I allowed to do whatever I want to do in an equation as long as I do it to both sides? Okay. Let's see what I've done here. Is this, do you remember what makes a perfect square trinomial?
Square both the first and last.
Is that a perfect square? Yes. Is that a perfect square? Yes. Is this 2 times, what's the square root of x squared? Times what's the square root of 3, of 9? What is 2 times x times 3? That makes this thing here, what do we call this thing right here now? That is a perfect square trinomial. Does that make sense? And so we know this is going to look like x minus 3 squared. Does that make sense? We know that that's what that is. Now, am I done solving this? Is x alone? Is x alone? No. What do I need to do here? How do I get x alone here? I need to square root that whole side. I need to square root this whole side. What is the square root of x minus 3 squared? It's just x minus 3 equals, what's the square root of 9? It's plus or minus 3. Oh, right, sorry, you're right. I forgot to do that. So this should be 16, right? So then when I square root that, okay, it ends up being x minus 3 equals plus or minus 4. What is x minus 3 equal? So you go, okay, it goes x minus 3 equals 4, and x minus 3 equals negative 4. X minus 3 is plus 3, x equals 7. And then over here, plus 3, x equals negative 1. Do you remember what our answers were before? Negative 1 and 7. Do you see what I'm talking about? Yes, that seems long. I'm going to do another one for you. I need to just show you how to do this because there are times that you won't be able to simply factor it and figure it out. You'll need to be able to complete the square. Let me give you another one. What about this? X squared minus 12x plus 3 equals 8. What we need to do, I'm going to show you this one. So you're just watching. If you're going to complete the square, well, let's look at this. Let's do this let's do this the other way. Let's do it the way you would probably feel comfortable with, and that would be to minus 8. Agreed? You agree that would be a way for you to do this? Minus 8. That means x squared minus 12x minus 5 equals 0. What multiplies to 5 and adds to 12? Oh, do you see what I'm saying? Nothing multiplies to negative 5 and adds to 12. Do you see what I'm talking about? So then we will not be able to solve this doing that. We need to solve this by completing the square. That means we're going to clear this guy out of here. Minus 3, x squared minus 12x equals 5. Yes? Now, that's 2/3 of a perfect square trinomial. We just have to make it so that it ends up being a perfect square trinomial. How you make it turn into a perfect square trinomial is you're going to take what is half of that number, 6. What is 6 squared? So I'm going to add 36 here. I'm going to add 36 here. Does that make sense? That's the whole process, is that you take half of that number and then square it, and that's what you're going to add to both sides of the equation. Yes?
What if it's an odd number, for example, 33?
You would actually have to do half. So you do 16 and a half. Does that make sense? So it's ugly, but that's how you do it. For right now, we're just going to do the round ones. Okay, now we solve this. So it goes x squared minus 12. Okay, well, let me make this equal 41. We're just going to make it simple. Okay, what is guaranteed to be true about this now that I've done that? It's a perfect square trinomial, which means you go, okay, well then, it's x minus 6 squared. Right? Because that's what multiplies to 36, and it adds to negative 12. Equals 41. Now pay attention. This is how you solve this. Ready? Are you paying attention? This is weird. Square root. Right? X minus 6 equals, what is the square root of 41? Technically, you could do this. You could go, is the square root of 41 plus 6, x equals 6 plus the square root, plus or minus square root of 41. Does that make sense? That actually is the answer. If I was to say that is the exact answer, and that is true, that's the exact answer. X equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 41. If you were actually going to give me this, and I said, okay, I want you to estimate or round this to the nearest tenth, what would you do? How would you give me the answer here if it's the... No, not 6.4. What would you do? What's the square root of 41?
6.
What is the square root of 41?
6.
You guys should have calculators out. You're in algebra.
6.4.
Okay, so it would be x equals 6 plus or minus 6.4, which would be x equals 12.4 or 0.4. Does that make sense? Depends on what they're asking. It depends on what they're asking. Okay? If I ask you, if I tell you I want the exact answer, what's the only exact answer? 6 plus or minus the square root of 41. That's it. Because if anything else, this right here is just what? That's an estimate, right? Okay. I want you guys to try one. Try this one. Number 19 here. X plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. I want you to complete this square. Now, I'm telling you right now, well, there's no other way to do it, so you guys can do it any way you want to, but trust me, you're going to want to complete the square. That means you get that 16 out of there. So really, I want you to stop what you're doing here watching, see if you're on the right path. Here's the deal. The first thing you're going to do is this. And this is true. If I was to say, I want you to solve this. So listen, if I gave you this question, solve. The first thing I would do is I go, oh, that's an easy one. I would go like this and go, okay, well, then let's see. Well, multiplies to 16. What are the factors of 16? 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. Okay. What multiplies to negative 16 and adds to 6? What is it? Plus 8 minus 2. The answer is negative 8 or 2. And you're done. For real. That's the answer. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an easy one. But it's important that you understand how to do this by completing the square. So I'm going to show you. Let's remember that the answer is negative 8 and 2. Can we remember that? Now let's do it by completing the square. Okay, so that means we have to clear that 16 out of there. We're going to add 16 to both sides. That leaves me with x squared plus 6x equals 16, right? Okay, what do I do to complete this square? Do you remember? You take half of this, half of b, and do what with it? Square it. What's half of 6? 3. 3 squared? Add 9, add 9. That leaves us with, that makes this 25. That makes this guaranteed to be a perfect square, which is x plus 3 squared equals 25. What do I do now? Square root, x plus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Now you have to go x plus 3 equals 5, x plus 3 equals negative 5. Guess what the answers come out to? It equals 2, and x equals negative 8. There they are. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll give you one that is not so straightforward. Let's do number 23. X squared minus 11x plus 3 equals 5. You guys, you can do this. Give you like 2 minutes. First thing you would do, listen, if I was to ask you to do this, if I was to say, okay, solve this, I would try it the easy way first. I would go minus 5, let's get that thing alone, x squared minus 11x minus 2 equals 0, right? And then I would go, okay, well, what multiplies to 2 and adds to, you see what I'm saying? Nothing multiplies to 2 and adds to 11. That makes no sense. This doesn't work. Now, here's the deal. You could go right from here if you wanted to and do what? What could I do from right here? I could plus 2, x squared minus 11x equals 2. Now, this is a weird one, right? Because all of a sudden now we have to go, okay, what's half of 11? What is it? I would leave it as a fraction. I'm going to 4.5, or yeah, 5.5. So I'm going to make it be 11 halves. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm going to make this real simple. I'm going to make this 11 halves. So I'm going to go, what is 11 halves squared? What is 11 halves squared? What is it? What is it? The way I have it, what is it? You guys don't know what 11 times 11 is? So how do you do 11? You guys are bugging me. You guys don't know how to do that? I'm not asking you to shout me the answer that everybody shouted. When I asked you the first time, I got silence. 121 fourths plus 121 fourths. Does that make sense? We know that this is a perfect square, right? We know that. So then what is it going to be? What is it? We know it's an x and an x. What is this thing square rooted? We already know it. It's 11 halves, right? So this would be minus, actually it would be one of these, right? We know it's a perfect square, so it's x minus 11 halves squared equals, what is this? That would be 2 plus that, so that would be 129 fourths, right? 129 fourths. So at this point, you know that's going to be ugly, right? So you're going to start estimating here. At this point, I would do something like, what is 129 divided by 4? What's 129 divided by 4? What is it? 32.25. And now I'm going to go square root. That leaves me with x minus 11 halves equals, oh boy, I'm going to leave it for now, square root of 32.25. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to add 11 halves, add 11 halves. That leaves me with x equals plus or minus the square root of 32.25. Do you understand that that's the exact answer? X equals 11 halves plus or minus the square root of 32.25. Now, if I asked you to do this, you got to do it, right? What is 11 halves? That's 5.5. If we're going to start doing decimals, that's fine. 5.5. So now we go, okay, x equals 5.5 plus or minus, what is the square root of 32.25? What is it? 5.7. So 5.5 plus 5.7 is 11.2. 5.5 minus 5.7 is negative 0.2. You know what the book says the answer is? Negative 0.2 and 11.2. None of this is any harder than any of it. It just expects you to know how to deal with fractions. It expects you to be able to know how to deal with decimals. And you all are in algebra now. And we're actually through algebra. This is starting to get into what? Algebra 2. You better know how to add and subtract, multiply and divide fractions and decimals. That's all. Nothing changes just because it gets ugly, right? Do another one. Actually, here, I'll show you another one, another kind. What about this? What if I have this negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 18 equals 0? And I was to tell you to solve this. The first thing you should do whenever you're going to, in the end, what are we going to probably end up doing with something like this? What's it called? We're going to factor it, right? So when you factor something, what is the first thing we always do? See if you can pull something out. Because watch, and while this is a 0, this is when you want to do it. Because watch what happens. Line on the equal sign. You can do whatever you want to both sides as long as, you can do whatever you want to an equation as long as you do it to both sides. Let's divide this by what? What would you divide it by? Do we want this x to be a negative? Do we really want that? No. So then what should we do? We're going to divide that by what? Negative 2. We're going to pull out a negative 2. We're going to divide this whole side by negative 2. We're going to divide this side by negative 2. Oh, look at that. What's 0 divided by negative 2? Still 0. I'm actually only need to do one side, right? It's still going to be equal 0. They're gone. That means that that leaves me with x squared. What is 8x divided by negative 2? Negative 4x, and then this is a positive 9. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? What do I do now if I'm going to complete the square? If I'm going to complete the square, what am I going to do? Minus 9, x squared minus 4x equals negative 9. Right? Keep watching. This is a good one. How do I complete this square again? What is half of 4? Or half of negative 4? It doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative. I'm going to square it anyway, right? So it's negative 2. What's negative 2 squared? What was it? Right, negative 2 squared is 4. So plus 4 plus 4. That leaves me with negative 5 over here. And that means this is a perfect square, which is x minus 2 squared equals. You all understand how I get from here to here, right? Okay, equals negative 5. Now pay attention. What is guaranteed to be true here? Square root. That is x minus 2 equals the square root of negative 5. Can you have, what number times itself is a negative? That doesn't make sense, right? There's no such thing. You can't have a negative in there. It makes no sense. You can't square root that. So the answer is there's no solution, right? There is no solution to that original quadratic. When there's no solution, what does that mean? How is this thing going to be graphed?
Above the x.
Or below the x, but what's for sure not happening? It never touches the x, right? Our parabola never touches the x-axis. If it touched the x-axis, there would be a solution or two, right? Okay. Something else that you may need to end up doing, it's ugly. Something else you may end up having to do is this. Like look at number 27. I'm going to just show you really quick. 4x squared plus 6x equals 12. This one is ready to almost be done right now, but watch. I'm going to move the equals 12 over. Equals 12. First thing I can do is what? I said that they're all even. What does that mean I need to do? Let's do this. Let's get the 12 on the other side so it's easy to do. Or whatever. Let's not. Let's just divide it by 2. All right, that's fine. Divide this by 2. Divide this by 2. That gives me 2x squared plus 3x equals 6. Still yucky. I need this x to be alone for this. If I'm going to complete the square, I need the x to be alone. So what can I do to make the x be alone? What could I do if I had to? If I'm going to force this, divide by 2. Divide this by 2, divide this by 2. That leaves me with x squared equals 3 halves x equals 3. Not equals, is plus. Right? Does that make sense? Now, is this difficult? How do I complete the square then? What do I do? What is half of 3 halves? That's 1 1/2. 3 halves is 1 1/2, so how much is half of 1 1/2? 3/4. It's so simple. It's 3/4. So I go, what is 3/4? What is 3/4 squared? Which that would be 9/16, right? So that means I'm going to go x squared plus 3 halves x plus 9/16 equals 3 and 9/16. Does that make sense? Nothing changes. I'm just doing it. I'm going down the same steps that we always do. It's just ugly. It's just dealing with fractions, and it's not pretty, and it's not fun. But okay, there it is. We know that this is now, what are we guaranteed that this thing is going to be this part? That's a perfect square, right? And we know it's going to be x plus 3/4 squared equals 3 and 9/16. Does that make sense? You can always force this stuff to do what you want to do if you're willing to get your hands dirty and have it be ugly. Does that make sense? You can always make things work. Always. Math is easy. You can always force things to work. You just need to be willing to get ugly. All right. I'll give you your homework. This is exciting. This is exciting. It's hard. Is this really what? Hold on a second. What is today? Tuesday? Is this 8.3? 9. Oh, I'm in the wrong lesson. Yeah, buddy. I'm in the wrong one. 9.4. Okay, I have 10 through 24 even. 10 through 24. Okay. The only one you're going to have to do that with that's ugly like that is number 24. And that one that one is actually not hard. So, okay. We'll do that. That's easy. You can do this. It's page 555, 10 through 24 even. That gives you a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions.